Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live stream. This week, nothing to talk about. I didn't read anything. Well, I read one thing, but I'm not going to go into it that much because tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed, will have a review for that out because I was very kindly given a review copy via Irodori Comics. It's one of their newest titles from the Irodori Aqua line. Hello, Yori Moon. Welcome to the live stream. A little bit different this week. I did do a tweet or Twitter poll whether or not people would be interested. Hello, Ray. Welcome to the live stream. Something different this week. No books to talk about. Nothing. I read one digital title that was 50-odd pages long that I'm going to keep my opinions for. But I will say that if you are interested in Leaper, being published by Irodori Aqua, the pre-orders are up already. It's being released on the 28th, so tomorrow-ish, maybe the day later, depending on time zones. I don't know. But pardon me. But it was really good. I really enjoyed it. If you like speculative sci-fi, if you like really human stories about life and connection and that sort of thing, then check it out. It's really, really good. I got a little bit a little bit sniffly at the end. Hello, Aisha. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for popping in. I do kind of feel a bit odd that I don't have actually any books to talk about, though, aside from that one title that, as I said, I'm not going to go into because I'm going to save my major thoughts on it for the actual dedicated video for it. But I hope everyone has had a good week. It's been a long week for me, but I am very fortunate in that I have 4 days off this weekend. So not only is it a long weekend where I am, it's a public holiday on Monday, but Tuesday is my birthday. So where I work, you are able to take time off for your birthday. And so I've taken the Tuesday off. And so I have 4 days. 4 days of no work, which is really fun and exciting and unusual. But yes, aside from that, I'm just hoping to catch up on sleep, honestly. A lot of sleeping in for me this weekend and subsequent days. But I was thinking that maybe rather than me just sitting here looking like an idiot, chattering on as per usual, thank you so much, Yori Moon. I appreciate that, and Aisha as well with the hands. I think rather than just sitting here talking about nothing or just, I don't know, maybe we'd be a little bit more interactive this week, get a little bit more involved. I don't know what that would necessarily entail, but there's nothing much for me to talk about. I think initially I will speak a little bit about, I don't know. I really don't know. It's been full on and I don't pay too much attention of what's going on in the hobby sphere when I am working. Had a great time this morning with my good friends, who many are in the chat right now, just hanging out, and that was really wonderful to catch up with people. With March starting, it's the change of seasons, so it will become fall very soon, which is my favorite season, just coincidentally. I don't know why I'm fuzzy, as per usual. Thank you, camera. No, camera, please don't do this. Hello, Zach. Welcome to the stream. Apologies, I have nothing to talk about. But I did want to know whether or not people would be interested in just like rather than talking about books, which I can't because I literally have nothing to talk about, I would just, hello, Archangel Manga. I welcome to the stream, and welcome again, Zach. Aisha, you are very kind. Thank you for always listening to me chatter on about so much inconsequential stuff. But I did think that maybe instead of like a normal typical weekly wrap up, we might do more so a Q&A or something that's a little bit more interactive, something that is a little bit more involved rather than me just sitting here being like, oh look, hello, Aisling Rowe, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for making it. Sorry, it's not as typical as usual, but that way I think I'll maybe if you have questions for me, or if you like, there's been a whole bunch of titles licensed recently, not only Seven Seas but other companies. I talked a little bit about that last week. But like J Novel Club had their licensing event. There's been Drips and Drabs here as well. And I feel like there's maybe an opportunity here if people have burning questions for me. Also, I did want to mention, before I get into your first question, Archangel Manga, thank you, is that if you're waiting for the podcast, it's uploading right now. I don't know why it hasn't been posted to YouTube yet, why it's taken so long. But if you are wanting to listen to it, and it's a great episode, if I do say so myself, but if you are wanting to listen to it and don't want to necessarily wait for it to show up on this YouTube channel, check it out on Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever else you watch or listen to podcasts. It is already it has been posted by Anchor FM, so it should be available on podcasting platforms to listen to. But yes, so first question from Archangel Manga. Do I make notes or prompts so I can remember what to talk about with specific series that I read in the week? Not really. Not so much. Sorry. I keep the stack of books here, so I remember what I've read in the week, because that's more so the issue that I might have. I've forgotten, like, oh no, I did read volume 11 of Snow White with the Red Hair. And maybe I pull it off very well. Sometimes I don't remember much about specifics for books. That might also be something you've noticed. I will always plug the podcast. If you're not listening to our podcast, Ray and I, Musical Pictures here, and I have a podcast. It's fabulous. It's wonderful. Go listen to it. And next month is my birthday month, so I got to choose the topic. So if that doesn't encourage you, I don't know what will. But I don't really write specific notes or anything. I more so do that with like first impression videos or series review videos, and it's not so much about events that happened or themes, because I have a fairly good memory when it comes to that stuff. Sometimes I forget names and sometimes I forget, specifics, but if a series has made an impression on me, then I will tend to remember why that was. I'm sorry, Rose being wonderful in the chat. So I feel like notes and note-taking is really useful, especially if you don't have a bizarre recall of inane detail like I do. And as I said, I do use notes to remember specific things when it comes to first impression videos, series reviews videos, things like that, because it's more so me trying to remember like which magazine a series is published in, what year it started in English, etc., stuff that isn't immediately at the forefront of my mind. So, but typically everything, all of my videos are off the cuff. And I feel like that it's not helped. All of my rambling isn't helped by that fact, because I do think that if you write a script or if you have specific notes, it can be much more focused and you don't just go on and on for hours like I do. But I am incredibly lazy. I've said this before, but YouTube is my hobby. I'm not being paid to do this. I don't have a huge amount of time to dedicate to it in regards to editing. It's just sort of a fun pastime for me that I've been very fortunate in, that my YouTube channel has gotten fairly popular. I've met some incredible people through this hobby. But the moment that YouTube becomes work, the moment that my hobby becomes work, the moment that manga becomes work, it kind of demotivates me to want to do anything. The most amount of work I do typically is like the minimal amount of editing that I do for the podcast, which, as Ray said in the chat, is the best podcast on the internet, honestly. Never apologize for being amazing. But the point is that I don't put a lot of effort into my videos, and some people that might be surprising. I feel like if you have a relatively okay lighting and setup, and you know what you want to talk about when you are talking about it, when you are talking about books or a series or whatever, that no matter how amateur your setup is, people will find you and enjoy what you're doing, and you'll get more encouragement to do those sorts of things. I'm not someone who kind of agrees that you have to invest a lot of time or a lot of money, especially into something, to do it correct right off the bat. My old videos are a bit hard to watch, I will admit, and I feel like YouTube was always going to be a learning process. Yeah, it's it's a thing. It's not going to work for everyone, and I totally understand that people can be very self-conscious. I'm not, despite what people may think, and despite how I may present myself in live streams and things, I'm not super confident about being open about my hobby, insofar, like, I don't talk about manga or anime with my work colleagues because it's not their business. They're not interested, and like, why would I do that? It doesn't matter if they know that about me or not. I do have some colleagues who are aware that I'm a big dork, but I feel like that's just something that comes with my personality, something inherent to who I am. But it's not something like, I don't see manga as who I am. It's just a thing I enjoy. So in saying that, by extension, YouTube and manga Twitter and all of that is me enjoying my hobby and celebrating that, or being excited about that, and I'm sharing it with people who do care, but it's not like my whole life. And Ray, I am very encouraged that you are having fun in the chat. Good on you, girl. I told this to Aisha and to Ray earlier in the day. So if you're not reading the chat, do. And I agree with this. Your life should not be about your hobby. Your life should be about you and, all the myriad of things you're interested in. I would hope I would hope that one singular thing, one singular hobby, or one singular property isn't your entire personality. That's what 15-year-olds who first get into manga tend to do. And it's fine because you're a cringy 15-year-old. But like once you're out of that initial like excitement of like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, I love Bleach, or I love manga, and Berserk's the best thing ever. Like, you should have more to who you are than just that. You shouldn't, I don't know, maybe this is judgmental, but like, I feel like those people who make their entire personality just like, oh yes, I am a Ravenclaw, and my whole life is dictated by that. It's like, really? Like, I don't, regardless of all of the issues with the series and the franchise and the creator, why? Like, don't you have anything else going on in your life? I don't know. Anyway, yes, I will stop. I will stop being judgmental, but I'm glad that people agree in the chat. I feel like manga, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to feel like super bad about. It's not inherently worse than any other hobby. Of course not. And if someone is interested or inquires about it, I am happy to talk about it. But if you introduce yourself as like, hello, my name is G, and all I do is read manga, that is, or exactly, oh yes, I have a YouTube channel, that's just asking for trouble. That's just asking for trouble, because I have several people in my real life, family, high school friends, other extended friends, who have, through some way, discovered that I have a YouTube channel. And I don't know if they ever watch my videos, but they're all subscribed, and it makes me, like, kind of like, oh god, no, you must never know how terrible and dorky I am. So as long as you can... So as long as you can enjoy yourself without having to involve everybody in your life, I think that's fine. I think your life is still can be as wonderful as it can be. So to follow that, sort of, yeah, that's another thing. Ray, we're no judgment here. We know, well, at least I know, the secrets that we both keep. The DMs can be wild sometimes between us, and I'm thankful that no one I know or no one around me is super religious and super judgmental in that sense. But yeah, I don't think anyone will necessarily care, but it's more so I'd prefer to be remembered as that professional person or having done something worthwhile than like, oh, that's so-and-so who reads comics and talks about comics. It's like, well, yeah, but I have a job. I have like other hobbies. I have other things in my life that I prefer to be remembered for than like, oh yeah, she does YouTube and reads manga and whatever. And even more so like the podcast, I'd much be preferred to be remembered over that than like, oh yeah, she's got a YouTube channel. But it's always that, I think, that self-perception as well. Where is your comment, Zach? I will find it. I also saw this news, so for those who don't know, MVM in the UK is an anime company. I'm also super excited, super wonderful that they are following up with this. So one of their licenses has been the Monogatari franchise, but after Owari Monogatari, they took a long break from licensing things, or just, I don't know whether it was issues with licensing or with Aniplex or whatever, I don't know. But finally, they've announced Koyomi Monogatari, Owari Monogatari Part 3, or like Zoku, the sequel, and something else, and I don't remember what it is, which is really good for me because I purchased the UK Monogatari discs because I'm not paying Aniplex prices. No, and the Monogatari franchise, or the company that licensed Monogatari in Australia, is kind of dead in the water and doesn't exist anymore. And I didn't buy their releases anyway, so I mean, maybe that's a testament to me being a bad consumer. But for as like, Monogatari is such an odd little thing. It's one of those series that you either love or hate. I really don't like. I like it. For as much as Koyomi is like, or Araragi is kind of the loser, pervy, teenage main character. I like him, and I like the supporting cast, and I think they're all pretty compelling. Hello, Rin. Welcome to the live stream. A little bit of an odd one this week, as you may be able to tell. But hopefully still enjoyable. Hopefully you'll still hang out despite the lack of books being talked about. And it's a Q&A, so feel free to send in questions or ask for opinions or whatever else. I'm totally cool for that. I don't know how long this will run. Hopefully not too long. As I mentioned, I want to sleep as much as possible over this long weekend because I need to recover the sleep that I lose throughout the week. But yeah, so Monogatari I actually really enjoy. I think it's not like the best thing ever made. And I've always had issues with Nisio Isin, like, being so clever with his wordplay, like knowing he's clever with his wordplay. I guess it's just been one of those weeks. I just didn't have the time. And okay, I'm gonna tell a story as well afterwards, but it's been a week. So apologies. Drink some water. Monogatari, super excited for it. Don't know if I'll buy it immediately, but I do prefer to have the just UK standard releases because it's easier for me. So part of the reason why I haven't read anything this week is, so Thursday at work, we had our quarterly catch up, which is basically the whole office. We get together and go over the numbers from the last quarter, talk about, what's changed, what's happening, predictions for the future quarter, right? Business stuff, not super interesting, but each quarter, like, it's a new department that runs it. So this week, or this quarter, was the government affairs department. And they did and it's themed. Like, we always have a theme. I say always. This is the first one I've ever been to because I've just recently been employed there. But the theme this quarter was Donut Days, which here in Australia means the amount of days with 0 new coronavirus cases. So where I live, we don't really have we don't have community spread with coronavirus. We've had a lot of donut days over the course of the last year, which is very fortunate for us. So I'm very, very good. Hello, Tay. Welcome to the live stream. But so the theme was like coronavirus and donut days and whatever else. we had donuts there. It's an evening thing, so it starts at 4, ends at 6 ish. And so there's drinks, alcohol drinks. One of my coworkers made up quarantinis for everyone, which was like espresso and Kahlua and vodka all mixed together. It was really delicious. I had the first one and I was like, coworker, friend, David, great job. You're a fabulous mixologist. Like, I don't have any measurement, anything, so I don't know how good it's going to be. I'm like, just be as heavy-handed as you need. So yeah, we went over that, did that. My department. So I work in investor relations. So I work with clients, finding clients, helping clients in the investment space. Typically here, that means resource sector, so mining companies, things like that. Pardon me. And due to the sheer type of work that it is, I am the only girl, female lady in the department. So it's me and a bunch of guys, and that's fun. They're all wonderful, love them. But so our head of department was like, let's go out for drinks. We'll have drinks afterwards. We'll have quick drinks for the department afterwards. And I was like, sure, that's exciting. That's fun. And what was meant to be, and we had a couple stragglers. So at the end of the quarterly catch up, we had a couple stragglers join us, which was totally fine. More the merrier, as I always say. What was expected to be like a drink or two, at the end of a day, celebrate a successful quarter, just, hang out with your coworkers, turned into 6 bottles of red wine shared amongst 8 people until about 10 o'clock. And then it takes about an hour for me to get home from there. So I didn't get home till 11. I ate some food, didn't get to bed till 12. So it was a long day. And I had a lot to drink. And then Friday, we had a long lunch because, as I mentioned, it's a long weekend this weekend. So in a different thing, we have, every time there's a long weekend, there's a long lunch the day before. So the whole company just has lunch together for like an hour and a half, and just one of the departments makes food for everyone, and you just hang out and again drink and whatever. So that was a bit of a wash for the afternoon. I got all my work done in the morning because I start very early, as I may have mentioned, but it was 2 days of like, oh yeah, I've had like 3 glasses. I've had like a couple glasses of red wine, and then I'm gonna get home and just sleep. So no reading got done. No reading got done this week is basically what I'm trying to say, because my coworkers are bad influences and paid for drinks free. That's also the upside of drinking with the company, is that I don't have to pay for drinks because I'm such a little baby, to the company. They don't expect me to buy drinks, which is good because that wine was expensive. Anyway, so yeah, welcome to the stream, Bazaar. I hope you enjoy. It's a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more unusual to the normal book wrap up for what I got through this week, because I got through nothing. As I mentioned earlier, I've read one short title for and hello, Tails. Welcome to the stream. I read one short title, which I will be reviewing tomorrow. That will be posted tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. Also, my whole video should be posted tomorrow. There's a couple things I haven't read. Well, there's stuff I haven't read in that. I'm just going to put that out at the forefront because, again, I just haven't had time. It's been a lot this week. But a lot of new debuts, a couple titles that I talked about in these wrap-up videos, a lot of stuff that I've been excited for, interested in, continuing with. A lot of books to talk about in the whole video. There's light novels, there's a lot of anime. If any of you ever watch the anime pickup videos, I don't know how many people do, but a lot of anime. I got all of the rest pretty much of my UK Christmas sale anime limited stuff. There's one more title that's still like one of the pre-order titles that hasn't come out yet. I haven't, I don't expect that to be sent to me yet. Everyone's so friendly and like nice in the chat. I'm really happy. Thanks as always, everyone who turns up. But a lot of that to be talking about, and I have figures. And an art book. I have an art book to talk about as well too, which to check that out when it's posted. It looks like the most recent episode of the podcast is processing on YouTube now. I don't know when exactly that will be posted, but you can already listen to it on the podcasting platforms if you're wanting to. It just seems to have been a little bit slow on the upload, but I did get it out before the end of the month. I did get it out before the end of the month, and for those who obviously have yet to listen to it, next month's topic is Fumi Yoshinaga, because it's my birthday and I get to choose, and that's what I chose. So, hello, Nature's Beauty. Welcome to the live stream. So that's what I chose, and I have the power. I'm one of the co-hosts. I'm allowed to decide what we talk about, and everyone else has just put up with it. Thankfully, Ray has allowed me this power. So I hope everyone enjoys that for this coming month, March, as well as we have a lot, set, or a lot of topics to think about and to cover. We have a whole list of stuff, but if anyone does ever have a particular topic or creator or theme or whatever, let us know, because we do actually really appreciate hearing feedback and getting people involved with the podcast. So yeah, it's, if you have like some particular idea or topic or whatever that you really want us to do, it might already be on our list, because as Ray has said, we have a very long list. But we can push it up the schedule as well if you're wanting to. And as always, Ray is really good about the timestamps. As I said, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to YouTube. I'll do everything else, but timestamps, I already listened to it, like the podcast 3 times. I'm not keeping time into when we're talking about certain things. It's a partnership. We do different roles, and it works well. It works well for us. I am very privileged and very blessed in having such a wonderful co-host as Ray. And hopefully everyone enjoys when we go off and talk about all of the stuff that we enjoy and maybe don't enjoy as well. But I do hope that people like the podcast, because it's something that I think is that we're both pretty proud of, and that we do try our best with. So yes, yeah. I'm so glad to see so much Fumi Yoshinaga love in the chat. That's really great to see. We definitely do have fantasy shoujo, as well as like spotlight episodes on Yona and 12 Kingdoms on the list. Like, it's there. We will, although that's not, 12 Kingdoms isn't so much a manga, but we will, you know us, we will talk about it, right? Believe me, we have a lot of bases covered, but it is good to know that people are interested in that. This is interesting. I hadn't seen that. It doesn't surprise me, just because if this is the DMP stuff, I don't know how well their personal online store ever works for them, because international fans were never really able to buy from their store very easily. DMP, we know, anyone who spent time in my my videos knows that I have a great displeasure with DMP. Most people do. They're not a wonderful company, and it's unfortunate that at this point there are still a couple series that I follow from them. Well, one. But again, like with Tokyo Pop, I'm not a hypocrite. If a company licenses and releases something, I will buy it because I want to support the legal release. But they have terrible business practices, and they are terrible just in general with keeping their stuff in print. But it doesn't surprise me that Tezuka stuff they've pushed onto Amazon, just because obviously Tezuka is hugely well known, right? Like, he's considered the be all end all of early manga, which is not true, but you know, he's highly respected for a good reason. And we have so many of his titles available, but only through Kickstarters and like strange exclusivity on certain platforms and things like that. So I'm personally not a huge fan of Tezuka. I've read a couple of his titles, Unico, Princess Knight and Twin Knight, Mew, what else? Something else, don't remember. And it's not that I hated any of his works, but they're very much of their time. And they're fine, but like, there's a lot. I think the issue with Tezuka is that he has so many works, right? He has so many series, and not all series are created equal. Not everything's going to be an Astro Boy. Not everything's going to be a Princess Knight. Not everything's going to be a Unico. And it just, some of the Kickstarted stuff, it's great. Like, I always think that it's better to have titles available versus not available. But I also feel like it's kind of okay that they were Kickstarted, and the people who are interested in them support them directly. Although, again, DMP issues, we're not, just, it's a whole mess. But rather than a company like going all in on printing 1,000 copies and selling 5, right? So, yeah. Well, again, and hello, 365801. I did see you come in. Welcome to the live stream. A little bit different this week. But I'm glad that it's interesting to see. Yeah, there's some things with Tezuka that I disagree with. I'm not going to say he's not influential or not important, because that's just patently false. But he didn't invent manga. He didn't like create manga. He didn't make manga be a thing, right? There's no one person is responsible for an art form like comics. If it wasn't him, it would have been someone else. And again, the fact that he has so many titles, like the sheer amount of stuff. He has hundreds and hundreds of works that he's put out over his lifetime. They're not all going to be good. There are a lot of them, as people have said, like, they're very indicative of the time or of his beliefs at that time. There's just, like with any kind of media from a creator from the past, there's going to be viewpoints that weren't, I'm not going to say were acceptable at the time, but they also weren't as frowned upon at the time. And thus, people got away with casually talking about sexist things, homophobic things, racist things, not because, like, oh, racism is good. Like, it was fine to be racist. It kind of was fine to be racist because nobody was pulling it up on them, but it didn't mean that it wasn't a problem. It just wasn't seen by society as a problem. But that's a whole other thing. And hopefully, we learn from that and we go forward and we're like, yes, we recognize that stuff that was not as wonderful, as pretty problematic, as pretty disappointing. And whether you can enjoy a series despite those things, or you're just like, well, I appreciate other series from this creator, or this creator isn't for me. Any of those are valid, as long as you can recognize issues currently that existed in the past and maybe weren't acknowledged then. I think that's fine. And we had a discussion earlier, Ray and Aisha was in this discussion of, I think that it's important for art to be able to exist in whatever form it needs to be, whether that be problematic, whether that be like disgustingly sexist or racist or whatever, just the most heinous things that shouldn't or wouldn't be acceptable by societal standards, right? Still should be able to exist, because if we can't explore things through art, then that's just that's a failure of art. Like, that's just failing what art should be, right? Creators should be able to explore really messy, really dark, really depraved things, whether that be working through their own personal things, where they're just interested in things or whatever. Like, there doesn't need to be a motivation for creating bad stuff. But at the same time, taking responsibility in your own consumption and being aware of your own biases. And if people do have discomfort in something, like, oh, if your favorite book, you love a certain book and other people are like, well, actually, I find that really racist, or I find that really ableist, or, oh, no, it's pretty sexist or whatever, you're still allowed to like that thing, right? But you should be open to taking other people's opinions and saying, well, like, I acknowledge that, and yeah, that is really terrible, or, oh, I didn't have that reaction, or, it didn't affect me in the same way, or whatever, like, however you react to it, but take that on and be able to either still like it despite those things, or get a new perspective and maybe not like it as much. I don't know. I'm not here to relegate how people are allowed to enjoy things, but it's just it's messy. Yes. Yeah, this is, and again, I feel this way, and I've said it before, that, like, it's similar with how I don't think all classic literature needs to be read. I do think that a lot of literature, classic lit, is important and very influential and deserve to be recognized, but by the standards of today, it doesn't inherently make it better or must read, or any, especially if it has very problematic things, whether that be racism, sexism, whatever else. You know, people are people, and people are shaped by the society they exist in. And again, hopefully our society now is a bit more progressive than it was 50, 100, 200 years ago. So, yeah. This is a very weird tangent, but I also agree with this. Like, I really enjoyed Dororo, the newer anime. I had a lot of fun with that. I really enjoyed it. I haven't had the opportunity to read the manga. I will get around to it at some point. I've seen bits and bobs of, like, well, Pluto I adore by Urasawa, which is a reimagining of one of the Astro Boy series or storylines. And I've seen, you know, Blackjack and things in various anime forms. But it doesn't mean that, like, I inherently love all of those manga. I haven't seen a lot of it, or I haven't read a lot of those manga, but I think through adaptation, a lot is gained there. So yeah, there is a there's interesting sentiment in the chat, and definitely a lot of really good points. Bizarre, man. I feel this sometimes. Like, I don't act it. Men can be something else. They can be something else. And I say this as a heterosexual woman who has a lot of male friends and male family members who I love dearly, but sometimes men can just be, they can just be a lot. And I mean, sometimes women can be a lot. Like, it's not inherently bad, but I think men are more, what's the word? A lot of them can get a bit more protective of themselves. They get a bit more offended or taken aback when they're questioned or, you know, confronted with something that they've done, or the way that they act might not be perfect, right? And just get really, you know, cut up about that. But like with everyone, you know, that's a sweeping generalization, and all humans are in a process of learning and growing and becoming better people. And so hopefully you're proactive in that, and not, you know, you get upset over something someone said and then you just immediately backlash against every woman and or queer person and or, you know, non-white person, and you're like, this is just wrong, and I don't, they're all full of hatred, and of course they all hate men. It's like, no, again, there's a reason that the not all men crowd is seen as just as bad in certain aspects as those who are, like, just blatantly terrible. But yeah, again, I do love you, and I don't think that you're inherently bad people, right? But just be a little bit self-aware, just be a little bit better. And again, this applies to everyone. This applies to every gender, every sexuality, every nationality, every race. Like, there's no inherently worse. It's just because of societal powers and privileges that have been graced upon certain groups, cis men, white men, or cis people, white or Caucasian people, men generally, heterosexual people generally. That's when, again, the power imbalance and the, just because you haven't lived someone questioning those aspects about you, or being derogatory towards you over those aspects, it's, I'm gonna not talk about this anymore, but I do think that it's a pretty good topic, and sorry for getting off the rails there. I know that it's it can be a lot. I've read This is a good point. The only Dickens I've read, I think, is A Christmas Story, and it's been many years since I read that, so I don't even remember how I reacted to that, or I was very young when I read Christmas Story. It's not a very long book, and has been adapted 4 million times, so just watch The Muppet Christmas Carol, right? And then you're fine, you're set. Plus it has Kermit in it, so obviously the better version. And I can't even imagine that. It's bad enough, right, recognizing from the outside when slurs and hatred are directed towards a group of people, especially racism. We're not going to get into it, but I don't understand hate-filled people at all, especially over things like that. The fact that certain books, certain products, certain media from time periods that do have very heavy, inflammatory, derogatory language is still very widely read and talked about and discussed is it's just, and especially if you're a minority in that class already, there's maybe a little bit of a different dynamic if we're talking about a book that's maybe talked about, like Huckleberry Finn or something, right? And the whole class is, Black, African American, whatever, versus you being the only Black kid in a class of white kids. There's potential for discussion when you're a teacher and you're hyper aware of this and all of your students are aware of this, and you can have this discussion versus a bunch of kids who haven't even thought about this, and some might see it as an issue, others might not, but there's an actual student who is stuck in that power dynamic, is outside of the group, that is being very directly affected. But Pluto and Dororo are both great. So aside from all of that, read Pluto. There's an anime coming up for Pluto as well. Dororo anime was very good. Really enjoyed it. I hope we see it come to disc one day. And yeah. So yeah, Ray, have a good night. I know you're probably left already, but have a good night. Sleep well, friend. Man, you are all very excitable in the comments, and I'm very appreciative of that. What else should I talk about? Precisely. The group versus the individual is always going to be a different thing as well. Because white women, right, which I am a part of, white women can just be on some bullshit all of the time. And we know this because we understand the type of white woman we're talking about. those who are demanding, who always want to be at the center of attention, who are just as racist and bigoted and terrible as the other people in their community, and unfortunately are teaching their children these same things. Yeah, but I would hope for myself that I'm not that, right? So again, the group versus the individual is very, very different. I'd hope that Aisha isn't drunk. Honestly, I don't know how early it is over there for you, but it's morning. It's morning. I don't think the manga's getting new editions unless maybe the Japanese version is getting like Kanzenban editions, but it's already like only 8 volumes. They might be doing 2-in-1s in Japan or have done 2-in-1s. I don't know, but I don't think that's something. It's certainly probably not something that we're going to get in English. We'll have to see, of course, of how well the anime does, if and or when that happens. But it's 8 volumes. It's not super duper long, and personally, Pluto is my favorite Urasawa work. I don't know what that says about me, but I love it a whole lot, and it's my favorite. It has been announced for an anime. Yes. I'm glad. Aisha, I'd be a bit concerned if you were drunk already at 9 a.m. I mean, I couldn't judge you because I'm not going to say that I haven't had drink before 10, but drunk is a different story. Maybe. Like, Urasawa has been getting, a lot of Urasawa's titles have been getting perfect editions, obviously with Monster as well as 20th Century Boys. And we've gotten a lot of his works as well recently, like Asadora's coming out, and Sneeze just was released, and the other one that I can't remember, the Louvre collaboration, which I loved, The Sign of Dreams, Mujiroshi, whatever it is. Those are all great. I know people are hoping for Billy Bat at some point. I just typically find that a lot of Urasawa's longer works are fantastic. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Monster. 20th Century Boys has been pretty solid for what I've read so far. But, like with, in a different way, but like with, oh god, what's her name? Rumiko Takahashi. Most creators, the longer things get, the less they need to be that long, right? There's not too many series that need to be as long as they are. And yeah. So I'm glad that we are on the same page, Tay. It's definitely more approachable. It's more affordable as well. And just generally better. I just think it's really good. And if you like sci-fi, and if it's kind of the loosest connection to Astro Boy, it's based off of a particular Astro Boy storyline. One of the better ones from what I've heard. And Urasawa really makes it his own. I think there's a lot of wonderful stuff that he does with that. And he's fantastic at, like, thriller, right? Mystery thriller with a sci-fi twist to it. Mystery thriller is what 20th Century Boys is. It's what Monster is. It's what a lot of his works are. So, right in his wheelhouse. I don't know what you're agreeing with, Aisha, but I'm glad you agree. I have not seen the new Aizoban. I'd be interested. I do know that, as Ray said, like the manga author is not a good person by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe if you're wanting the manga, buy it secondhand. But yeah, there's. I do like the manga. I do think that it's an interesting version of Evangelion. And as I've said before, I do like seeing different interpretations of franchises and different adaptations as well of franchises. I'm looking forward to the new Evangelion film, which is coming out next month, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I also read it before I was aware of that, like before I was on Twitter, right? So there's just, and then again, like that kind of ties back into that earlier thing of like how much do you separate art from artists? How much is like death of the author a thing that you take into your media consumption? And then also the idea of like throwing away the bath, like the baby with the bathwater, being very, and this doesn't apply to this series, but being so morally objective or morally disgusted by something, and you see it with people who are like just young people typically, who just rail against everything that they regard as like disgusting or inappropriate or whatever, and try to be in charge of what's allowed to be enjoyed. And in doing so, they just make it a bad situation for everyone. It throws away that whole argument because you kind of forget the whole point that you're trying to make. Yeah, it's just, again, messy. Aisha, well, I guess we're both in the same. We're in the same situation here then. Exactly. And that's, again, this idea of like separating the death of the author, separating art from artists, in the same way that like I don't think it's inherently wrong to enjoy Harry Potter. I also don't think you should buy the new editions of the books that come out, because one, you'll be able to find all of those books for 30 cents in a Goodwill, right? But also J.K. Rowling's a shitty person, so don't give her money. But I also like, but it's nostalgic for a lot of people. It's something that's been very important in their life for a long time. But again, there's a lot of issues with it. It even from the beginning, there's a lot of issues with it, and people need to acknowledge that and say again that I like it despite those issues, or wow, I never thought about it that way. Man, that really does suck. But also, it's something I'm nostalgic for. It's part of my childhood, etc. Or whatever, right? So I think the best thing you can do is encourage people to read better things, less problematic things, without completely vilifying the stuff that they already enjoy that have bad or terrible people who have created them, or problematic themes, or whatever else. Like I've said it before, I don't like Attack on Titan. I think it's a mess. Like the messaging is just all over the place, and I don't think it's handled very well. There's a lot of stuff in that series, but it's also a fun train wreck, right? And I'm never going to say that people aren't allowed to like it, or that there's nothing good about it, or that it was inherently made to be a hateful piece of media. But if you enjoy that series, or if you like that series, if you think it's super awesome and cool, there are a whole ton of other cool stuff with less problems, less potentially inadvertent or purposeful messaging in it that I would recommend over that, and probably be stuff that I'm like, this is one that I do enjoy. This is what I like more, and maybe you might like this, and maybe you will like it more, and maybe also it's just better to not kind of cross those lines. But a lot of this is found out through social media and things like that. And unfortunately, fortunately in cases, but unfortunately insofar as these are people with pretty nasty opinions, but social media is a platform where people like to talk about the dumb shit that they believe. And by that, I mean their terrible opinions on race or sexuality or whatever, they're hateful things, the hateful things they believe, and feel no shame about that. And thus, that's how we discover these things, right? So yeah, there's a lot. And I mean, yeah, I mean, hey, and Attack on Titan, I've owned it, I've read it, I still read it. I just do not buy it anymore. I've even seen 2 of the seasons. I don't think I've seen season 3, because at that point it had already gone so far off the rails. I'm certainly not watching the current season. And again, if you're enjoying it, if you love Attack on Titan, that's fine. I don't think you're a Nazi. I don't think you hate people, right? Like, I don't think you're inherently a bad person, but I also think you should engage a little bit more critically on the issues that some people do have with it. And yes, there's bad faith arguments about it, like every controversial series, but there's better series. There's better series this season that are coming out. Even of stuff that I'm not watching. So, diversify a bit and have fun. Are we talking about Attack on Titan? Because we were definitely doing Attack on Titan at some point. Yeah, but I don't know how willing everyone's going to be to listen to 2.5 hours of me just being like, oh my god, this series is wild and really yikes. And I don't know what's going on insofar as like why any of this is happening. And oof, that was a bad decision. But hey, at least the blood purity stuff hasn't changed from the very beginning. So if that's your shit, then you will enjoy it. I also remember your tweets about Teiko Watanabe, Rin, and yeah, this is obviously very much an issue, and it's inexcusable, but I also don't know how the media in Japan has been portraying COVID, because we know, right, that there's a lot of people who are just very, and this isn't an excuse, it's maybe an explanation of how seriously people are regarding COVID. When people aren't being directly affected by it or don't think they're being directly affected by it, and their government isn't, treating it as an issue, then it's very easy for this sort of situation to be pulled out of. So yeah, and again, like I don't know the full extent of of Watanabe's issues, but I still really like Kaze Hikaru. I'm still going to read it. I'm still going to enjoy it, or at least insofar as much as I will keep reading it. That's good to know. That's really good to know. And as I said, obviously, like I don't know. Like obviously, I'm not there. You have a much better perspective, and I'm glad. I'm glad that countries are treating coronavirus seriously because it's a serious thing. And I'm glad people in the chat are sort of on the same wavelength as I am. But I do think that this is something that Ray and I have talked about before. Perhaps not about like generally problematic titles and that sort of thing, but more so series spotlights. We've definitely talked about Attack on Titan. We've also definitely talked about Bakuman in this regard. And there's for both of those, there are a lot of series that do all of the theming better, all of the premises for the most part better, without all of the sexism or racism or weird conspiracy stuff or the proto-fascist odd messaging that's very confused and halfway commits but then doesn't. So yeah. In the future there will be episodes where we get a little bit not that our current episodes don't have hot takes, because they certainly do. This newest episode has hot takes as well, but a whole episode of hot takes maybe something that people are interested in, and I hope that people are interested once it does become a little bit more usual for us. But yeah, so that's that. What else? Does anyone have any other questions or any other topics that they want to discuss that doesn't devolve into me ranting about social issues and social justice and inherent bigotry and tribalism and problematic media and the importance of protecting art and stuff like that. It's a lot for a Saturday night. I don't know how exciting this is for people in their morning. Have a good night, Ray. Sleep well. I hope you are okay tomorrow. Drink a little water. Take an aspirin now. Eat some bread. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. You say we, Aisha, but I don't know if that we is for you or like generally, because yeah, it's I know you are my biggest cheerleader and I appreciate it, but I also have half a dozen other people who may not be nearly as interested. The fact that 10 people are still here is kind of surprising. Thanks, guys. I do appreciate that. Attack on Titan, I feel like everyone will die, and I'm okay with that because they're just, none of them are very likable anymore, aside from Armin, but he's also going to die because of Titanism, and that makes me sad because he's the only character I care about. But Mikasa's gotten better as well, but I also just don't like the race purity thing around her either, or this race superiority issue, more so. That's exciting. It's a volume 15 would be, because 14's been out for a little bit little bit of time. Um, I am looking forward to it. I really like Yotsuba. It's very funny. It is very sweet and wholesome. It's a title that I no longer own, but I've commit to following digitally. Not because it's bad, far from it, but more so just because prioritizing space, prioritizing series that I'm going to be rereading. It's a series that I enjoy in the moment, and I think is definitely a classic, and is one that's very approachable for everyone and a lot of fun for most people. But it's not necessarily one that I need in the collection. But I am. It's always exciting when new series or new volumes come out for series that do take a long time to be released. Again, kind of mentioned earlier, but Kaze Hikaru takes the longest amount of time to be released. It's at least like 8-10 months between volumes, if not 12, right? And despite the creator's issues, I really like that series, and the fact that we only get one volume a month is painful, especially because it's completed in Japanese now. So I'm looking forward to the new Yotsuba. It's one that I think also does the cute kid being cute and funny premise very, very, very well, without feeling like ex-Prime Minister Abe breathing down your neck going, hey, look how cute children are. Don't you want children? Don't you want to boost the birth rate and have your own cute daughter just like Yotsuba? And it captures young child shenanigans very well. It does it very, very well. Yeah, I'm the same age in that I did switch, or I have made the switch to digital, and I think it's just there's a lot of series like that for me, which shouldn't be a surprise because I talk about it. Rin, I no longer have D Gray Man. I had also thought that I unhauled it a long time ago, right? But I guess I just boxed it up and put it in a cupboard and just forgot about it for a while. Like I probably boxed it up because I'm like, I'm going to sell this, and once it's been sold, then I'll post it out. And then I guess it just got forgotten about, and then I rediscovered it. And once I rediscovered it, I was like, wow, I forgot that I had this. I thought I got rid of this. But since then, I've passed it on to a new home. So it has been on hold. And again, not because it's a bad series or anything. Although it was never my favorite. Like, I never liked it as much as some of the other titles that I was following at the same time. Which is kind of unfair because the other titles that I was following at the time was like Full Metal Alchemist, which is one of my all-time favorite series. And I was introduced to it via the anime as well, which I think a lot of people were. And that's when I will keep following digitally, but it's been so long between volumes as well, so long since I've read it last, that I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything about D Gray Man aside from, or I don't remember anything current to what's happening in D Gray Man right now. I remember the characters and the premise and everything, and I remember certain events, but it's just been a long time. I want to say like at least 3 years since I've read D Gray Man, and my memory's good. It's not that good. So yeah, it's not that I actually don't have it anymore. It has been removed. I don't think it's bad that you haven't read or watched Attack on Titan. I think there's I'll kind of stand by the first season. I do think it's pretty solid. I do think that it's pretty good adaptation for what it is, and especially if you don't take it too seriously, and if you because the first season is just like survival horror action with a bunch of annoying characters, but not inherently like terrible characters. And you can feel the desperation. You can understand why they're in this position. It's more so when you get deeper in the story and the story gets more involved with like the political aspects of it and trying to explore this world and the whole situation, that you're like, oh, wow, this is making a lot of allegories for real life stuff that's a bit problematic and super not wonderful to read about. Oh, and all of these events that have happened, maybe not intentionally, but kind of have inferred certain things. And I don't think I like that. But again, it's one of those series that if you don't care about that, you can also be like, man, our characters are in a desperate situation, fighting crazy monsters, and wow, I sure hope not everyone dies, but this is Attack on Titan, aka everyone is gonna die. So yeah, I don't think it's wrong. I like with every series, I don't think anything is inherently like everyone has to watch it and it's important that you watch it and it's a must read and watch. I'm not of that ilk. I think that I think it's one that's very popular for understandable reasons. I think it's one that a lot of people attached to early on in their anime career, perhaps, and was their gateway, and thus kind of has been legacied into something nostalgic for them, even though it's only 5-ish years old. So yeah. Yuri Moon, that is the greatest news that I've ever heard. I wasn't aware of that, but Soloist in the Cage is super cool, and that's really exciting if it's coming off of hiatus. I really enjoy that series, and it's good because so many of my other Jump Plus series have ended recently. So many. It's been like 3, but Soloist in the Cage was one of the first titles that I read on Jump Plus. Really enjoyed it. I mean, I had a good time with it, but it went on hiatus pretty quickly after that, and as you mentioned, has been on hiatus for a long time. And in that time, in those 2 years, the other initial series that I were following, like the Sign of Abyss, finished. Curtains Up, I'm Off, has finished. Summertime Rendering has finished. Hell's Paradise has finished. There's a lot's finished, and I'm happy, but also sad. So this is not a title that is available in print, unfortunately. This is only available on the Manga Plus app. It's a Jump Plus title, and it's about a young girl who have a good night, Aisha. Go be a great mom that you always are. But it's about a girl. Well, it's about the city that, in kind of a similar setting to Attack on Titan. I think it's a prison, like a city of criminals. But because it's been established and there's all these high walls and whatever, there's been multiple and whatever else. There's a little girl who she was born there, raised there, and she was abandoned very young with her baby brother. And she's stuck in this, hellish life in this enclosed prison of a city. But she and a couple of her neighbors and things who are criminals, well, they kind of sympathize with her. As I said, her parents abandoned her and were just left and never came back. Whether they were killed out, around or whatever, we don't know. But she, with the help of some of her close neighbors, decide to stage a jailbreak. So they're trying to escape, and they get out almost. But at the very end, they're having to run. They're detected. They're having to, run and get out of there as quickly as possible. And in the course of that, this girl, she drops her baby brother, and he's left behind. So now it has been 10 years or something, and she has returned. She has come back to this prison city in order to find her brother, who she presumes hopes is still alive, and rescue him and take him out of this horrendous life. And it's really good. And there's lots of action. And yeah, I liked it a lot. Manga Plus, as I said, I have been, well, if you like, I think Kaiju number 8 is pretty solid. I think that's a pretty decent series right now. Again, action with kind of a fun twist to it. What else am I reading on Manga Plus? Give me a moment, because I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a little while. Manga Plus. As I said, Summertime Rendering is pretty great if you are... Oh my gosh, no. If you're someone who doesn't mind a little bit of fan service or whatever, what's on Jump Plus? I have yet to read 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, but I am hoping to read that one. Spy Family's great. I love that series. Jump Plus or Shonen Jump, wherever you want to read it, it's pretty fun. Soloist in a Cage, also really good. I have heard nothing but good things about Torture Princess. As I mentioned last week. There's just been a lot of good stuff. There's been a lot of good stuff. If you're wanting Jump titles, not Jump Plus titles, but just Jump in general, which obviously are on the Manga Plus app as well. My current favorite Shonen Jump title right now is Phantom Seer, because I am a big ol' supernatural yokai fan, right? That's my bias. Have a good night, Archangel Manga. I hope you have a good dinner as well. But I really enjoy that series a lot. The art is great. I think the premise is just really interesting because I'm a sucker for that type of stuff anyway. The new series, I Tell C or I Tell C, that's all right. I've read 2 chapters of that. It's not, there's a lot of potential for that to be terrible, but it hasn't been that terrible so far, which is good. I do like Jujutsu Kaisen. I haven't read it in a while, but it's a solid, fun shonen series with creepy monsters and just, I don't ask for much, right? And if your action series has creepy inhuman monsters, then I will read it and I will probably enjoy it. It's kind of filling the gap of creepy monster needs since Hell's Paradise ended, to be honest. The Elusive Samurai is alright. Like, I don't. Assassination Classroom was never my favorite series. To answer your question, bizarre. Ooh. Manga Plus has the latest chapters of Shonen Jump titles. So the most recent 3 chapters of My Hero Academia and Mashle and Dr. Stone and Boruto and whatever, you know, all of the main Jump titles, right? They have the most recent 3 chapters. They have the first couple chapters, half a dozen chapters, whatever, and then it won't have the middle ones because they expire, and then they'll have the last 3. But a lot of the Jump Plus titles, which are in a separate magazine from Shonen Jump, it's their online magazine, they will have the full run. So you can read all of Summertime Rendering, or 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, or all of the ones that I mentioned. Hell's Paradise, you can't. You have to read that on Shonen Jump's platform or their website, because that's since been licensed. So the stuff that isn't licensed for print in English, you can read in its entirety up until most recent. But the ones that are licensed in English, you have to read as you go, either to stay up to date, or you have to you read the Shonen Jump app. You know, you have a membership for that, and for $2 a month, you can read the entirety of the series. It unlocks all of the chapters. But yes, it does have Jump Plus and normal Shonen Jump titles as well. And the good thing about Manga Plus is that it's free. It's 100% free, comparatively to, as I said, Shonen Jump, where it is $2 a month, which is not a huge investment. But if you want both, it means you are only really paying for one, and you have all of that content from the other one without, you know, having to pay for it. It's still legal. It's still supporting the creators. So, yeah. I have heard interesting things about Undead Unluck as well. Haven't started it yet. I follow a lot of people who read a lot of different manga. It's always interesting to see how the Jump stuff gets talked about week to week, because as you mentioned, like it didn't seem to have a great intro, but and I think, like with a lot of series, it takes a little while for them to find their feet. There's not well, it's not true. A lot of series do grab you from the first chapter, or at least some of my favorite series, like immediately I'm like, I love this. Chapter 1 done, dang, I'm invested. But sometimes it does take a little while to understand or to get used to what a series is doing. So yeah. Have a good night, Tay. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. But yes, I don't know why I have a tickle in my throat. I apologize. But it's also getting late here. Thank you. I'm going to probably wrap it up unless anyone has any burning questions, anything that's super important that I need to answer. Thanks everyone for being fine with this sort of setup. I know it's very different this week. And sometimes this is just going to be what happens. There's going to be times where I don't read anything. I think that's just kind of part of life. And I really appreciate that everyone seemed to take that in stride. I hope that the conversation was interesting, at least for people. If not, complain now. Let me know. But yes, so I do hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your weekend, or a wonderful start to your weekend as well, depending on where you are. I hope everyone is able to have the time to sit down and read manga or novels or watch anime or whatever it is you want to do. Find the time for, because always good time to make time for your hobbies. And yeah, as I said, thank you guys as always for hanging out with me. I do really appreciate it. I am always so surprised that so many people do come to check the live streams out, and seem to not be too bored after the fact either. But yeah, so I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Hopefully that podcast has been posted by now. Let's see. Yes, it's available. So if you're waiting, you can listen to the podcast right now on YouTube. Otherwise, whole video is tomorrow. Also, a review is tomorrow for a very exciting title that I really enjoyed. And I will see you in the next video, whichever that may be that you watch or listen to. And yeah, thank you guys as always. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.